Welcome to The Perspective. Here, we look where others turn away, deep, dark, direct. Today, drugs. A topic that fascinates, that destroys, that changes lives. They're as old as humanity itself, yet their power remains unbroken. What do drugs do to our bodies, our minds? Why do people turn to them, and why do states fight against them? And what's the greatest drug of all? I say, it's comfort, and I'll show you why. We'll dive into history, into science, into the dark underbelly of society, and find a truth that forces us to take responsibility. I'm a Bitcoiner, I see the world differently, and I'll show you what lurks in the shadows. This will be intense, this will be eerie. Stay tuned, it'll grip you. Picture this, it's midnight. The streets are empty, the lights flicker. In a corner, someone sits, eyes glassy, hands trembling, a syringe falls to the ground. In another city, a crowd dances in a club, pills are swallowed, the world blurs into colors. And in a suburb, someone sits on the couch, scrolling through social media ordering food, letting life pass by, trapped in comfort. Drugs, they're everywhere, in every society, in every era. They promise freedom, escape, ecstasy, but they come at a price. A price many don't see until it's too late. What are drugs? Why do they draw us in? And why is comfort the most dangerous drug of all? Let's start with history. Drugs are as old as humanity. As far back as 10,000 years ago, in the Neolithic era, people in South America chewed coca leaves for energy, the foundation for what would later become cocaine. In ancient Mesopotamia, 5,000 years ago, the Sumerians brewed opium from poppy plants to relieve pain. In ancient Greece, people drank wine mixed with herbs to enter a state of ecstasy, and in India, cannabis was used in spiritual rituals, as described in the Vedas. Drugs were never just intoxicants, they were medicine, they were culture, they were connection. In the Middle Ages, alchemists used substances like laudanum and opium mix to treat illnesses. In the 19th century, morphine, a derivative of opium, was used for pain relief, but many soldiers in the American Civil War became addicted. In the same century, cocaine was hailed as a miracle drug. Sigmund Freud wrote enthusiastically about its effects before recognizing its dangers. Drugs have always been there, and they've always had two faces, healing and destruction. What do drugs do to us? Let's look at the science. Drugs act on the brain by manipulating the reward system. Substances like cocaine, heroin, or MDMA increase the release of dopamine, the happiness hormone. Normally, dopamine is released when we eat, love, or succeed. It rewards us for survival. But drugs flood the brain with dopamine in amounts no natural stimulus can match. A study by the National Institute on Drug Abuse shows cocaine can increase dopamine levels tenfold. The result? Euphoria, energy, the feeling of being invincible. But the price is steep. Over time, the brain adapts, it produces less dopamine on its own. The receptors become desensitized. Without the drug, you feel empty, depressed, listless. That's the start of addiction. Long-term, drugs damage the body, heroin weakens the immune system, methamphetamine destroys teeth and skin, alcohol, the most legal drug, leads to liver cirrhosis and heart problems. Psychologically, the effects are just as severe. Studies show that drug use increases the risk of anxiety disorders, depression, and psychosis. Drugs promise freedom, but they make us slaves. But there's a drug even more dangerous, one we all know, one we all consume: comfort. Why is comfort the greatest drug of all? Because it lulls us into an illusion of safety while stripping us of the ability to grow, to act, to take responsibility. Comfort is when you escape into routines, doing the same thing every day, avoiding challenges, avoiding risks. You scroll through social media for hours, order food via an app, binge watch series until your eyes burn, all to avoid thinking, feeling, living. Comfort gives you a false sense of satisfaction, but it makes you lazy, dependent, weak. Psychologically, this is devastating. Studies show that people who stay in their comfort zones have a higher risk of depression and lower self-esteem. Why? Because they don't pursue goals, don't overcome challenges, don't find meaning. Comfort is a drug that numbs you. It keeps you from breaking free from the masses, from taking responsibility, from being free. And just like with other drugs, you don't notice the dependency until you try to break out, until you realize you've lost the ability to act for yourself. Why do people turn to drugs or to comfort? The reasons are complex. Some seek escape from trauma, from stress, from a world that crushes them. A World Health Organization study shows 70% of people with drug problems experience childhood trauma. Others seek ecstasy, the thrill, the feeling of being alive. And many seek comfort, the illusion of safety, of stability. In a society that forces us into collectivism, where we're supposed to function, consume, obey, drugs and comfort are an act of rebellion, an attempt to break free from the masses. But this rebellion comes at a cost. Drugs and comfort give you the feeling of freedom, but they take away true freedom, control over your mind, your life, your future. Let's look at society. States have been fighting drugs for centuries, but the war can't be won. In the 1970s, US President Richard Nixon declared the war on drugs. Billions were spent, millions incarcerated. Yet drug use rates rose. Why? Because the state fights the symptoms, not the causes. Poverty, inequality, trauma, these are the drivers of drug use, and the state ignores them. Instead, it controls, it punishes, it takes freedom. In many countries, people are imprisoned for possessing small amounts of cannabis, while alcohol, which kills millions annually, remains legal. The state decides what's good and bad, but this control is another act of collectivism. It takes away our responsibility to decide for ourselves, to act for ourselves. And that's the problem. When we give up responsibility to the state, to drugs, to comfort, to others, we lose our freedom. We become dependent, we become weak, we lose ourselves. How does this connect to Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the opposite of dependency, it's freedom. Bitcoin gives you control over your money without a state, a bank, or a collective deciding for you. Drugs and comfort, on the other hand, take control away, they make you dependent, they enslave you. But all three show us something: the longing for freedom is deeply rooted in us. People turn to drugs or flee into comfort because they want to be free, but true freedom doesn't come from a substance, not from convenience. True freedom comes from responsibility, from self-determination, from truth. Bitcoin is a tool for this freedom, a system that can't lie, that can't be controlled. Drugs and comfort, however, are an illusion of freedom, an illusion that puts you in chains. What can we learn? Drugs and comfort are a mirror of our society. They show us what's missing: meaning, connection, freedom. They're a warning sign. If we give up our responsibility to substances, to convenience, to states, to collectives, we lose ourselves. But they're also a reminder: we have the power to change. We can take responsibility for our minds, our lives, our freedom. The history of drugs shows us healing is possible, but it starts with us. In Portugal, drug use was decriminalized in 2001. Instead of punishing people, they offered help. The result? Overdose rates dropped, addiction rates fell. This shows freedom and responsibility go hand in hand. When we give people the freedom to decide for themselves and support them in taking responsibility, we can heal as individuals, as a society. What does this mean for you? Drugs and comfort are a warning against dependency, against loss of control, against the illusion of freedom. But they're also a wake-up call. You have the power to take responsibility. You can be free, not through substances, not through convenience, but through truth, through self-determination, through systems like Bitcoin that give you back control. In a world that forces us into collectivism, responsibility is the path to true freedom. You're stronger than you think. You can break the chains of drugs, the chains of comfort, the chains of the old world. Picture this: you're sitting in the dark, the screen flickers. The streets are cold, the syringes fall, the lights fade, but the truth calls. The air is heavy, the chains rattle, but within you, a light breaks through. This is the perspective. What do you think? Are drugs and comfort a path to freedom or a trap? How do you take responsibility for your life? Write it in the comments. Your voice keeps the mystery alive. If this perspective grips you, subscribe to The Perspective. Give this video a like, share it with the brave. Let's hunt the shadows and find the freedom. Until next time, stay awake. The truth lives in the code.